Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Corvus, and welcome to Yacc, yet another Cast where I pick a game, I play it for a week, and then I'll talk about it. This week's game is Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released in 1985, developed by Nintendo R&D 4, and published by Nintendo. And also there will be spoilers up ahead, but just so you know, but first a little backstory. I always played this game at a friend's house until the hype of Super Mario Bros. 3, but I never owned the game myself. Me and my brother, I should say, we had a pre-select number of games. We had Metroid, Metal Gear, Russian Attack, and a weird golf game I remember, and also like Star Force, but nothing more fancy than that. But I always have fond memories of this game. So the game starts you up with a choice. You can select between 1 and 2 players. So the first player is controlling Mario and the second player controls Luigi. So you can't play at the same time, so when Mario dies, Luigi continues. And I'm not sure because they didn't play the multiplayer function because I'm a single guy, so I don't know if you take turns with controller or if the second port controls Luigi. So the first level teaches you how to play the game. You move from left to right, you hold the B button to run and the A button to jump. And you can jump on enemies and whatnot. And throughout the level there are these blocks that you can jump up from beneath. There are also these question blocks that will spawn certain items or coins. So the power-ups are mushrooms, stars and fire flowers. The stars grant you invulnerability for 4 to 5 seconds, so you can take hits and run into enemies and destroy them. And the mushroom makes you grow big and you can take 1 hit. And if you maintain that mushroom, that power up, you can spawn another item called a fire flower, which grants you the ability to throw or cast fireballs by pressing the B button. Very useful. So if you collect 100 coins, you get 1 extra life, and there are certain hidden blocks that will spawn extra life, these green mushrooms. And there are other types of blocks that you will encounter that will spawn vines, which you can climb up and end up in bonus areas and skip parts of the game. And also throughout the levels, there are these green pipes that some of them you can go down into and you can enter a little bonus area where you can collect power-ups and coins. And usually it takes you a little bit ahead of the level. So all the levels are timed about 300 seconds or something. And if you don't manage to make it throughout the timed period, you fall off the screen basically. But usually you have just enough time to reach the end of the level. And at the end of every level, there's like a flagpole. So you just jump into it and you drag the flag down and you enter like a little small castle. So the second level is an underground level, and it changed the color palette to a darker tone, which I think is really cool. The background turns black and all the enemies turn like a dark blue, grayish kind of tone. So this level is full of bricks, and you can jump on top of the bricks to reach like higher platforms. You can actually run up the top of the scoreboard. And that's actually part of a skip. So if you do that at the end of the level where you're supposed to get into a pipe and get to the surface, you can actually run on top of the scoreboard and you end up with 3 other pipes further along the way, which are like basically warp zones that would take you ahead to world 2, 3, or 4. And it's basically a skip. This game has only 8 levels, but there are some skips like wines and other warp tunnels. So World 2 is somewhat like the first world. The third world seems to be at night because the background is not like the first world, 2 worlds with like bright blue skies and whatnot. It's actually like a black background. And the fourth world is where I'm most used to. I always skip to this one. It's like the first world, but there's this annoying turtle that floats on a cloud and throw down these turtles with spiky shells called spinies. And I think the turtle's name is like Lacuto or something like that. And you just run through the level and try to avoid the stuff he throws at you, and you reach the end of the level, and that's the flagpole, you know. So the enemies in these games are like iconic as far as I'm concerned. So we have the Goombas, which are basically mushrooms that look angry and they have like 2 feet, no arms. Not really intimidating, you just jump on their heads and that's it. And then you have the Koopas, and they are basically turtles. So if you jump on them, they go into their shell and you can use their shell as a projectile. And later in the game series, you could actually pick up these shells and throw them at enemies. But here you can just jump on them. And there's like a little sheet you can do. If you place a shell near like a staircase or another block that you can't destroy, and you start like jumping on it. And if you get the timing right, you just jump on the shell and you stack up points and you earn like infinite like lives, because it ticks up to a certain point and then it starts to become an extra lives instead of points. A really nice little thing to know if you try to just beat the game and you want extra lives, I guess. And then you have the Piranha Plants, and these are annoying because in every green pipe, or not everyone I should say, there is like these meat eating Mario plants that basically wants to eat you. So like there's like this flower with teeth that comes up out of the pipes, and at the most inconvenient of times, let us say that, and really annoying. And if you beat the game once, that becomes the second lap of the game, and then all the normal Koopas are replaced with Buzzy Beetles, and I think they are invulnerable to the fire flowers effect, like the fireballs, but you can still jump on them like normal Koopas. So this game has 32 levels and 8 worlds, so if you want to beat the game, you had it cut out for you, let's just say that. And at the end of every like world, there's like a boss stage. So this is kind of a meme at this point, but you beat King Koopa, not yet named Bowser in this game, and you go to save Princess Toadstool, but the princess is at another castle and you greet it with Toad. And this is one of the more funnier things. If you look at Toad's sprite, he actually flips you off. And I'm not joking, he really does. But at the end of the game in like the world 8, just before you get to the boss, there's like this puzzle where the game you scroll from left to right, and you're supposed to select the upper, the middle, and the lower path, if that makes sense, in a certain sequence in order to get to the boss. And the first time I did this, it was really frustrating because my time ran out, and I didn't do it with save states, I remember. So when I got game over, it was like, oh no. But I remember there was like a sheet, and I found out like much later, if you just hold like A or B or start or something, it actually starts you from that world which you died on. Not at the exact stage, but like the beginning of it. And if I knew that back then, I wouldn't be so frustrated, but whatever. You get to the end and you beat Bowser, he falls into the lava, you cut the bridge, and you go to the princess and Peach, or in this case, not named Peach yet, just called Princess Toadstool. Says like, the princess is another castle, you know, and just joking. It's just brilliant. Like, you got through all the trouble and she still jokes about it, you know. So gameplay: run through the levels or warp, beat King Koopa in the end, and save Princess Toadstool. Control: the D-pad moves Mario or Luigi around, and the B button makes you run, or if you have the fire flower power, you can throw fireballs by pressing the B button, and the A button jumps, and the start button pauses. Graphics. The graphics are really simple. I like the sprite artwork. It's really just the basics. I don't have much to say about it. Sound and music. The legendary Koji Kondo made the soundtrack for this game, and he also worked on other titles such as Zelda, and he's a brilliant composer. What more can I say? Easter egg, secrets and glitches. The Minus World. So in World 1-2, at the end of it, in the underground section, there is a warp pipe that leads you up to the surface, and behind that brick wall is the warp pipes that lead you to 2, 3, and 4. So if you can clip through the wall by running, ducking, somehow clipping through the wall, sliding through, and the warp pipe loads. So what I think happens is it loads the pipe and the trigger, but the rest of the data hasn't loaded yet. So if you go down that pipe, you end up in an underwater stage called the Minus World, which just loops, and you're basically trapped there. So in conclusion, I wrote yes, absolutely. So this is a classic game, and I didn't play it as much as I would have liked back in the day, but I remember my 36th birthday. I had my NES Mini hooked up to my TV, and my sister's husband wanted to play some NES games because he was nostalgic. So he started up and he played some soccer games, and eventually he started playing Mario before he more or less didn't want to play because he was bored. So he gave the controller to my niece, and she's like 4 years old, and she had fun playing the game. So that's actually proof that this game is a bit challenging for a little kid, but she still liked to play it, even though she died like 100 times on the first Goomba or whatever. She had fun playing, and yeah. So on the other hand, I talked to a Swedish streamer called TJ Stark. He plays a lot of Apex, and I went into his Twitch chat, and I mentioned to him that I was doing this podcast and talking about original Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System, and he was like, well, everybody plays that game, and everybody praised it to be the best game and a revolutionary platformer, and well, it's not, it's just blah 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 blah. And he ranted for 4 or 5 minutes how he actually doesn't like the game. And in the back of my head I was like, I have to defend this game, I have to really do it. But he actually made a couple of fair points. Back in the day, it was probably revolutionary. We got from this kind of platform, we got more interesting platformers, and the technology evolves. But somewhere, someone has to start doing this. But he actually made me laugh, because everyone that has a podcast or does review about video games eventually will cover this game. And I never thought about it that way. It's every YouTube channel has a review of Super Mario Bros. I think he said, and I was like, yeah, well, hey, damn it, that's true. I never thought of it like that. And I laughed about it, but now when this game is off the shelf, I don't have to talk about it ever again, but I probably would mention it somewhere else, I think, yeah. So anyway, thanks for listening and or watching, and take care.